Hi, it's Nikki from Colon to Cosmos. Welcome back. So last time we talked about the long tube, 9 meters, mouth to anus. But this time, how does anything get in anyway to get inside our body? Well, it's absorbed through the small intestine walls. And the walls of the small intestine are lined with like a velvet lining of villi, tiny delicate fingers that wave into the hole in the middle of the tube. So many little fingers we couldn't possibly count them. In fact, they create an absorption area of 450 square meters, the same as 2 tennis courts. Can you imagine that? So we have such a wonderful system to help us absorb all the good stuff that we eat that comes into the body. And each one of these delicate fingers, each villus, has part of the enteric nervous system coming right to the tip of every finger. There are neurons and all the other parts of the nervous system on every single villus. So it can really respond to everything, to the outside world, to our life, and to absorb what is coming into us in every sense. So they also carry with them a single cell barrier that goes over every single one of these thousands and thousands of villi, all the way through the small intestine, which is where we do our absorption. So this very delicate barrier is 1 cell thick. Why don't we have a really beefy barrier to keep the bad guys out, the bad bacteria, the bad virus, the undigested food proteins? Well, we don't, because we want to make it easy to absorb the good stuff. However, that can also make us vulnerable. So we have this beautiful single cell barrier, and it has a wonderful name, the intestinal epithelial barrier. And I feel that when we're here and present here, it's like we're hovering between 2 worlds, the outside world and the inside world. What's staying out, what's coming in. It's a really important first boundary in the body for whatever comes into our life and whatever we eat. And it makes me think actually about our emotional boundaries as well. And I've noticed this in my clinical practice over the years, that when there are issues with the intestinal epithelial barrier, there can often be issues with emotional boundaries, maybe with ourselves and our work, our boundaries between us and other people, in relationship, in friendship. So it's really interesting how the physical aspects of our body really mirror and reflect and show us how we are in our emotional, mental and spiritual lives. So we do have a little bit of extra protection over this wonderful barrier, over all these delicate fingers, which help to waft things through the tube inside and move the fluids along. We have a layer of mucin, a mucus, that comes over the top, just to stop the little fingers from getting so battered with what we eat and drink all through the day, every day. So what can damage this barrier so that instead of only letting the good guys in, keeping the bad stuff out, some of the bad stuff comes in, maybe the barrier gets eroded and leaky. I'm sure most of you have heard of the idea of leaky gut. Then we get inflammation and all kinds of problems. What is the thing that most impacts negatively on the barrier? You can probably, when I tell you, you'll go, I'm not surprised. Stress. The biggest impact on our gut, on our barrier, is stress, especially chronic stress. Because we all have days when things are difficult or moments in our lives. But if it's ongoing, what happens is we get tension around this barrier. We get poor blood circulation. And then all the little cells that are going to produce the mucin to flow over the top of these wonderful velvet fingers that are waving around, they can't work So we get areas without mucin and they're eroded and bare, and then a bad guy can come in and he can get his foot in between two of those delicate cells and go, open the tight junction, get into the bloodstream and start to cause trouble, inflammation, infection, or all kinds of other things. So how we live our lives is so important to how healthy our barrier is, this place where we hover between two worlds. And I'll be saying that probably until you're really bored with it over the next few sessions. So I am so inspired by the beauty of what we find inside with this velvet layer. I wrote a poem about it called Velvet Villi, and I'm going to read it to you. Villi, microvilli, thousands of delicate fingertips creating a velvet lining deep inside us, touching our world inside, absorbing the emotional rainbow of our daily lives, fully charged with sparkling enteric glia, scattered like stars in a night sky in our inner universe. Pulsing networks of flashing calcium as glia talk to neurons, cells, bacteria, all conversations shaped by feelings and experiences of generations past.